Lama Tsultrim
Welcome everyone to the Summer Solstice Livestream Event. I'm Drimé and I'll be supporting you today along with Bodhi, and we are so happy to have you with us today. The special gathering to mark Summer Solstice will be held by Lama Tsultrim Allione, a best-selling author and internationally recognized Tibetan Buddhist teacher, founder, and spiritual director of Taramandala. Our meeting opened with a long live prayer for this teacher. Today, Lama Tsultrim will teach on and recite the Great Perfection Aspiration Prayer of Samantabhadra, which is a profound teaching of Dzogchen that is traditionally recited on solstice and equinoxes, and it will be followed by a solstice meditation. Bodhi will post the link to the prayer text for you in the chat right now, so you can download it from there. You can view and download it by Thursday this week. At the end of our session, you will have an opportunity to offer Dana to Lama Tsultrim, and I will talk more about it towards the end of the event. And now it's my great honor to welcome our teacher, Lama Tsultrim Allione. Lama Tsultrim, we would like to request that you turn the wheel of the profound Dharma for the benefit of all sentient beings. Thank you.
Thank you, Drimé. Good morning, everyone, or afternoon or evening, depending on where you are. And maybe let us know where you are. You can put that into the chat. So let's raise bodhicitta, the intention to be together this morning or now, wherever you are, the time on this longest day of the year for the benefit of all beings. Connect to that network of beings who are out there with us from all over the world, connecting, feel that connection, and join together with them to raise the heartfelt, loving intention to benefit all beings. Thank you. Got people from the Netherlands, Paul and Ree, Germany, England, Austria. Wow. South Africa, Indiana, Mexico City. Wow. Poland, Northern California. They'll keep clicking in here. It's really such a special day today. This is a day that was celebrated and is celebrated all over the world, especially in the Northern Hemisphere. where we have these very long days. And the further north you go, the longer the days get. If you're in Scandinavia, I wonder if we have anyone from Scandinavia here. Or even in the United Kingdom, there's this very long days and short nights, and some of the nights aren't even completely dark. And so these days, these summer solstice days, was something that was really marked by those cultures, and many of the early Neolithic and Paleolithic archaeological sites are oriented towards the solstices and equinoxes in an alignment, so that the sun, the rising sun, would shine through the whole alignment, to a design at the back of a barrow or something like that. And so if we think about full moon as the time of that fullness of the moon, and then it begins to wane, this is the full sun of the year that we're feeling right now. And so it's a time for fertility, it's a time for new beginnings, and for bringing things to fruition. I know my garden here is going crazy. I just can't believe how much it's growing every day. I have tomatoes that are like way over my head now because of how much sunlight there is. So let's take a moment and just feel that, feel the day, the closeness of the sun, the full strength of the sun. The sun in Tibetan Buddhism and in Tantra in general is the feminine. Normally we think, oh, the feminine, that's the moon, because of her rhythmic nature and her reflective nature. But in Tantra, the sun was considered to be the feminine and the active principle. So the feminine is not always passive and reflective. It has an active aspect, and that's the aspect that is seen as feminine in the Vajrayana tradition and represents wisdom. So this is actually the strongest moment of the feminine of the year in terms of tantric teachings, which is the kind of Buddhism that was practiced in Tibet. So that's interesting, right? I thought it was really interesting when I learned it, because we tend to make these sort of assumptions. Oh, the moon is the feminine, the sun is the masculine. The masculine is the active, the feminine is the passive, but that's not true in Tantra. The feminine is the active and is also wisdom. So this is the full moment of the feminine in the year in the Vajrayana tradition. And so this is a time to make aspirations. And so this song or this prayer that we're going to be reciting together is something that's done on solstices, equinoxes, at the turning of the year, and during earthquakes. I always think about, like, would you think to go get your Prayer of Samantabhadra and recite it during an earthquake? I don't think I would, but that is recommended. So it's times of change when we do it. And so I'm going to give you a little bit of teaching about this before we do it together. And so nice to see. Oh, there's someone from Russia. Yay. So that we have a little bit idea of what we're doing before we do it. So this is called the Great Perfection Aspiration Prayer of Samantabhadra. And it comes from the Gompa Santal. That is a terma cycle. It's called the Kunzang Munlam in Tibetan. If you speak to a Tibetan about this practice, that's how it would be referred to, Kunzang Mulam. And as I said before, it's especially to be done during solar eclipses, or lunar eclipses, and the solstices and equinoxes. I'm not sure I did mention eclipses before, but yeah, that's another time to do it. It comes from this Dzogchen Tantra called the Tantra of the Great Perfection, which shows the penetrating wisdom of Samantabhadra. Zangtal is a beautiful word, actually, in Tibetan, and it means sort of penetrating insight, but it also has this quality of piercing through the solidity of objects into their true nature, which is luminous and clear. And so I love that word, Zangtal. It has a lot of deep meaning in terms of Dzogchen teachings, a way of truly perceiving things as they are, Zangtal. The Tibetan prayer in the short title of the Tantra is called Gongpa Zangtal Gigyu. Gyu means Tantra, or the Tantra of penetrating wisdom, or the Tantra of transcendental intention. So Zangtal is one of those words that can be translated in a lot of different ways. But to me, it's also an onomatic poetic word because there's that kind of like Zangtal, to sort of be able to see into the luminous true nature of everything. Zangtal. Beautiful. Sometimes I give that name when I give refuge vows. Okay, so let's break down the prayer a little bit. So the beginning, the first few lines are a brief presentation of the ground, path, and fruition. And so that is right in the beginning of the text, where it begins, Ho, the entire world of all appearances and possibilities of samsara nirvana, one ground, two paths, two results. And then down until I, the noble Samantabhadra. So this is sort of sums up the whole prayer. So basically what this is about and why it's so profound is that it's talking about the big mistake. The big mistake that we all made and the possibility of not making that mistake, because it's a mistake that we make constantly, 1 second to the next. So ultimately, it talks about the ground of being, which is an awake state which has no form and yet pervades everything. No beginning, no end, pure, open awareness. That's the ground. It's called the Kunshi. This is not the Kunshi of the Alaya Vijnana, which is a storehouse of all our samskaras or the karmic imprints we have. It's Kunshi in the sense of the ground of being. And then it says, one ground, two paths, two results. So that's the one ground. The two paths are either the recognition of that ground or the failure to recognize that ground. So either Rigpa, or awareness, or Marigpa, non-awareness. At every moment, including this moment, right now, you have a choice of whether to be in your true nature, which is united with the ground of being, or split from that. The results are either liberation or the 6 realms of being, non-liberation, samsara. And so when you think about this, it means that at any moment, we have the opportunity to be either ensnared in delusion, illusion, dualism, fabrication, or we have the possibility to be fully awake in our true nature. And this is one of the unique qualities of Dzogchen teachings. That is, it is and can be a non-gradual path. For most of us, it is a gradual path, but there's also that moment-to-moment possibility of complete awakening. And for some very rare people, the first time they hear this, they see it, and they can stabilize that awareness and not go back into delusion. But for most of us, maybe you can have a flash of it, but then you return into the dualistic fixation state. And so the one ground is the ground of being, the two paths is recognition or non-recognition, and the two results is either samsara or nirvana. And so that the beginning is talking about that. And then the next part that begins, I, the noble Samantabhadra. And so as you do this prayer, you see yourself as Samantabhadra. Samantabhadra is a little bit like Prajnaparamita in the sense that both of them are Dharmakaya deities, and Dharmakaya has no form, actually. And yet we depict them with form. Samantabhadra is depicted as naked because he is naked awareness. What he is aware of is Samantabhadri, which is the ground of being. So Samantabhadra is the one who is aware of the ground of being, and then Samantabhadri is that which he is aware of, the ground of being itself. And so when you visualize yourself as Samantabhadra, you see yourself as a dark blue male Buddha who is dark blue, like the autumn sky. I always think of the sky in the Himalayas. When I lived in Manali, which is, I'm not sure what the altitude is there, probably about 8,000 feet. In the autumn, the sky would change color. The monsoon would be over, those clouds going through the valley every day, and the sky would clear, it would start to get colder, and the color of the sky was so intense a blue that I remember I would actually kind of cry out when I saw it, just like, oh, so amazing. And that's the color of Samantabhadra. So you will be doing this as Samantabhadra, which means you will be doing it in a state of primordial awareness. As this dark blue, naked, because he's Dharmakaya, which is the formless dimension, Buddha. And so there's a statement of that, and then there's a description of the ground of being. And that goes up until the description of Samantabhadra and how he accomplishes the benefit of beings. That begins with, through my aspiration prayer of innate compassion, may all sentient beings of the three realms, etc. That's the end of that description of how Samantabhadra benefits beings. And then the next part that begins in the first place, it's how ordinary beings are deluded and led astray in samsara through failing to not recognize the ground in the first place. And then that is just a short section. And then there is the general way in which delusion occurs. And that begins with the line, a sudden loss of conscious awareness in the wake of this arouses an anxious state. So to me, this was like when I first heard this song and received teachings on it, that's such an important line, because that anxiety that we have when we separate from the ground of being, there is a sensation of anxiousness, of, we could say, stress, we could say a state of suffering. There's a feeling that things are not right, that there's something wrong, but we can't name it. It's just a vague feeling of there's something wrong and I need to resolve it. I need to fix it. And that's the key moment, because out of that comes the attempt to solve that problem. And either it's solved by returning to the ground of being into a non-dual, resting, open awareness, or we try to resolve it through passion, aggression, and ignorance. And that creates the 6 realms of existence. So we start going out to try to resolve it instead of turning back into the ground. So we go out with passion. Oh, if I just find this right person and can unify with them, I won't have this feeling anymore of anxiety. Or if I could just get rid of this irritating person or this irritating situation, that creates aggression. The feeling that if I could just get rid of them, then I wouldn't have this feeling anymore. And then the third one that's a little harder to see is ignorance. And that is the experience, bewilderment, befuddlement, confusion, just like, I don't really know what's happening, but I don't feel okay. So I'm going to just blank out and space out and maybe get high in one way or another. So those are the 3 main strategies, and then those manifest in the 6 realms. And so that begins, these 6 realms begin with the line, both aspects of non-recognition of intrinsic awareness, co-emergent and all ascribing, constitute the ground of confusion of sentient beings. And then it goes into the 6 realms of existence, and how this occurs for all beings. So there's the general way that delusion occurs, and then it goes into the specifics of it and how it occurs through desire, and then through, and that begins with the ordinary rational mind of dualistic grasping constitutes a state of doubt. That's how the desire one begins. And then there's the anger one. With respect to the external appearances of sensory objects, a subtle sense of apprehension arises. And then it describes how that develops. And then the next one is pride. And that begins as one's mind becomes swollen with arrogance. That's pride. And these are all connected to one of the realms. And then, due to deeply ingrained habitual patterns of dualistic grasping, the pain of elevating self and denigrating others is jealousy. And each one of these is also connected to one of the 5 wisdoms. And then indifference or ignorance, due to erring into passive unconsciousness, there comes a state of torpor, stupor, and forgetfulness. And so it describes then the wisdom that can come out of each one of these when it's transformed. And then finally, the showing how the qualities of immaculate fruition are made manifest. And then that one starts with all sentient beings of the three realms are equal to me, the Buddha, who is the ground of everything. And it talks about how that we can reverse that. And then at the end, it talks about the occasions on which this prayer is done. And that starts with during solar or lunar eclipses, earthquakes, solstices, or with the passing of the old year. If you visualize yourself as Samantabhadra and recite this so that all can hear it, all sentient beings of the three realms will, through this aspiration prayer of this yoga, be gradually free of suffering and eventually attain Buddhahood. So essentially, the structure of the prayer is a general review in the beginning of the whole process, then a pretty in-depth description of the ground of being, then about the process of the split from the ground of being, how this breaks down into various different ways that non-recognition occurs, then back to the potentiality of awakening, and then finally when and how you recite this. So I hope that's clear. And so this is actually an amazing prayer, and it can be done at any time. And I think prayer is kind of, I don't know, not a great word in English for it, because we think when we pray to something. Munlam is actually, it's like the path of wishes. So it's really an aspirational statement that we're making here, rather than that we're praying to Samantabhadra, because we're not. We actually are Samantabhadra as we're doing that, as we're doing the whole prayer. And so the way we'll do this is that we'll read it together, and then we'll pause after different sections and take a moment to contemplate what we've said, because that's what it is. It's really a meditation process that we go through of how this mess was made, how this mess manifests, and then how to potentially resolve it. So we'll pause at various times. And obviously, I'm not going to be able to hear your voices. You will be able to hear mine. Mine will be the only voice you can hear, but please go ahead and recite it out loud wherever you are, if you can. If that's not suitable for your situation, then you don't need to do that. So let's go back to the beginning of the text now. And there it is. I just posted it. You can download it. I have some beet juice I'm drinking today. Very good for all kinds of things. I also have this amazing flower that I'm offering on my shrine, but I just wanted to show it to you. This is a rose. Can you see how big it is? I guess you can, because you can see my head next to it. It's a rose from the garden here, and this is the result of the solar growing, the solar increase that has led us to this solstice. Okay, I'm getting settled here. And yes, the rose is beautiful. So let's begin with the 9 breaths. If you don't know them, I'll guide you through them, and then we'll begin. And we'll pause periodically, if necessary, with a little meditation for each section. Okay, so 9 breaths. Inhale up, exhale down. Place your thumbs at the base of your ring finger, close your fists, place that down. Where your legs connect to the trunk of your body, the groin, press down, straighten your arms so your shoulders go up. You're closing various channels as you're doing this, compressing the lung or the prana. Then come up with the left arm, inhale. Close the left nostril and exhale. And if you're male, see a dirty white light coming out. And if you're female, a dirty red light. For the female, that represents anger and, desire. And the white represents anger. And then it's the opposite on the other side. For the female, it's the dirty white, anger, and for the male, it's the dirty red, desire. Down below you are all of your enemies. This prana, this air, as it gets to them, transforms into pure, luminous gifts of whatever they need. And now this is a cycle that's a little clearer, same colors. And now this is the same colors, and they're clear, beautiful crystal white and a beautiful ruby red coming up with the left. And always it's going out and feeding our enemies below us. And pressing down the backs of both palms, backs of your hands on the groin. Inhale, and there will be a 3-part exhalation. The color is blue. This is ignorance. So very dirty, clear blue, and then a clear blue. So it's one exhalation with 3 parts. And it's the same visualization of the ones below. Then take a moment, place your hands on your knees, and notice the flow of wisdom prana in your body. That's a breathing process called the 9 purification breaths. There's many ways to do this. This is a method from the Longchen Nyingtik, and it's very helpful to do before you meditate. So now we will begin. We'll read the title first. The Great Perfection Aspiration Prayer of Samantabhadra. Ho! The entire world of all appearances and possibilities of samsara and nirvana, one ground, two paths, two results. This is the magical display of intrinsic awareness, that's awareness like rigpa, and the non-recognition thereof, not recognizing awareness, the ground of being. Due to the aspiration prayer of the all-noble Samantabhadra, may all awaken to manifest Buddhahood within the palace of the basic space of phenomena. And now this is the review of the sort of a general short review of the whole process. The ground of all experience is non-composite. The self-occurring vast expanse of being is indescribable. There are no terms for either samsara or nirvana. If there is intrinsic awareness of this very point, there is Buddhahood. If there is no recognition of intrinsic awareness, sentient beings wander in cyclic existence. May all sentient beings of the three realms become aware of the ultimate significance of the ineffable ground of being. So that's the fundamental aspiration here. And I just want to take a moment to explain what intrinsic awareness is, because it's going to be used again and again. So this is not mindfulness. It's not simple awareness. It's talking about the awareness that was there before you were born and will be there after you die. It's awareness that is intrinsic. It's part of everything. It's your true nature. It has no birth. It has no death. It's always present. And yet we often fail to recognize it. And that's what this whole prayer is about. So that's the meaning of intrinsic awareness. In Tibetan, the word is rigpa. And now the ground. I, the all-noble Samantabhadra, moreover, am the ultimate significance of the ground of being. Remember, you're visualizing yourself as Samantabhadra now. Let's take a minute and feel that. Blue, naked, embodying intrinsic awareness. And the whole time you're reciting this, you are that Buddha. Begin that again. I, the all-noble Samantabhadra, moreover, am the ultimate significance of the ground of being. Without cause or condition, self-occurring, intrinsic awareness of the ground of being, thatness itself. No flaw pertains of superimposing concepts of outer versus inner. No sullying takes place due to the obscuration of unconsciousness. Therefore, inherently self-manifesting appearances are not sullied by flaws, since self-cognizing intrinsic awareness dwells in its natural place of rest. Even though the three realms are fearsome, there is no apprehension. There is no attachment to the five kinds of sense pleasures. In non-conceptual and self-occurring transcendent knowledge, there is no corporeal form or any of the five emotional poisons. The lucid aspect of intrinsic awareness is unceasing, a single essential nature with 5 aspects of pristine awareness. From the ripening of these 5 aspects of pristine awareness come the primordial Buddhas of the 5 families. From these, pristine awareness unfolds to its limits, giving rise to the 42 Buddhas. Due to the arising of the dynamic energy of the 5 aspects of pristine awareness, the 60 wrathful Herukas come about. Therefore, intrinsic awareness, as the ground of being, has never known confusion. Since I am the Buddha, since I am the primordial Buddha, through my making this prayer of aspiration, may sentient beings in the 3 realms of cyclic existence recognize their self-occurring intrinsic awareness so that pristine awareness unfolds to its limits. Take a moment to contemplate that. These 42 and 60 peaceful and wrathful deities are in the Shitra practice, the post-death practice. And they are always present. They're primordial energies. How Samantabhadra accomplishes the benefit of others is the next section. My emanations are uninterrupted, spreading forth inconceivably by the hundreds of millions, demonstrating myriad ways to tame anyone in any way whatsoever. Through my aspiration prayer of innate compassion, may all sentient beings of the 3 realms of cyclic existence be drawn from the 6 classes of ordinary being. And the next section is how ordinary beings are led astray, the process. In the first place, for confused sentient beings, intrinsic awareness of the ground of being does not arise. So there is a blank state of unconsciousness. This itself is non-recognition of intrinsic awareness, the cause of confusion. And then how delusion actually occurs. A sudden loss of conscious awareness in the wake of this arouses an anxious state of apprehension. This gives rise to grasping at other as adversary of self. From the successive solidifying of habitual patterns comes the evolution of cyclic existence in the usual progression. From this, the 5 poisons, the afflictive emotions, evolve. The influence of the 5 poisons is uninterrupted. Therefore, because the ground of confusion for sentient beings is this unconscious state, the non-recognition of intrinsic awareness, through the aspiration prayer of me, the primordial Buddha, may all recognize their own intrinsic awareness. co-emergent non-recognition of intrinsic awareness constitutes erring into an unconscious state. All ascribing non-recognition of intrinsic awareness constitutes grasping in dualistic terms of self and others. Both aspects of the non-recognition of intrinsic awareness, co-emergent and all ascribing, constitute the ground of confusion for all sentient beings. Through the aspiration prayer of me, the primordial Buddha, for all sentient beings in cyclic existence, may the heavy darkness of unconsciousness be cleared away. May consciousness based upon dualistic grasping be refined away. May the true nature of intrinsic awareness be recognized. So that's the process, and then the aspiration to undo that process. Let's contemplate that for a moment. And then we start to go into the specific ways that this manifests and the potential of transforming it into the 5 wisdoms. The ordinary rational mind of dualistic grasping constitutes a state of doubt. Due to a subtle degree of fixation coming into being, habitual patterns gradually become more solid. Food, possessions, clothing, dwellings, companions, the 5 sense pleasures, loved ones. One is afflicted by desire due to attachment to what is attractive. These constitute the confusion of worldly beings. There is no end to the influence of dualistic grasping as subject and object. When the fruit of clinging ripens, rebirth occurs in the realm of pretas, afflicted with cravings, experiencing frightful hunger and thirst. Through the aspiration prayer of me, the primordial Buddha, may sentient beings fixated upon desire and attachment not reject the yearnings of their desires outwardly, nor indulge in the fixation of desires and attachment inwardly. Rather, by letting their awareness relax in its own natural place of rest, may they hold to that natural place of rest, intrinsic awareness, attaining all discriminating, pristine awareness. With respect to the external appearances of sensory objects, a subtle sense of apprehension is aroused. From the solidifying of the habitual patterns of aversion, conceiving of enemies, and avert urges to beat and kill come into being. When the fruit of aversion ripens, there comes the terrible suffering of being cooked and burnt in the hell realms. Through the aspiration prayer of me, the primordial Buddha, for sentient beings in the 6 classes of ordinary existence, when the powerful aversion comes into being, may they relax in the natural state of rest, without rejecting or indulging, and holding to that natural place of rest, intrinsic awareness. May they attain pristine awareness of lucidity. So this is about aggression and anger. And always talking about relaxation, letting go into the natural state. So feel that tendency toward aggression and then the release into the natural state. As one's mind becomes swollen with arrogance, the ordinary attitudes of competing with and belittling others give rise to powerful mental states of pride, so that the suffering of strife between self and others is experienced. When the fruit of that karma ripens, rebirth occurs in the realm of the gods, who will experience the eventual fall from that state. Through the aspiration prayer of me, the primordial Buddha, may sentient beings who have given rise to arrogant attitudes relax their awareness at that point in its own natural place of rest. Holding to that natural place of rest, intrinsic awareness, may they realize the ultimate meaning of equalness, equanimity. And feel that competition, belittling others, how that lives in you, and then recognizing where that will lead, relax it into its natural place of rest. So what this is saying is that each of these poisons, of these grasping patterns, be it desire, anger, arrogance, each of them, when they're released, has a different flavor. And that's why it talks about these different wisdoms, these different experiences. So it's all released into the natural state, but because of the energy of that particular type of grasping, it will have a different taste, a different flavor. And that's the 5 wisdoms. And here it's equalness or equanimity. Due to deeply ingrained habitual patterns of dualistic grasping, the pain of elevating self and denigrating others leads to the solidification of attitudes of quarreling and competition, so that rebirth occurs in the realm of the demigods who kill and maim. The result of this is a fall into the hell realms. Through the aspiration prayer of me, the primordial Buddha, may those who have given rise to competitive attitudes and quarreling not indulge in conceiving of enemies, but rather relax in their own natural place of rest, holding awareness to that natural place of rest. May they have pristine awareness of unhindered, enlightened activity. All accomplishing wisdom. Due to erring into passive unconsciousness, there come states of torpor, stupor, forgetfulness, faintness, laziness, and ignorance. As a result, there is wandering in the realms of animals who are without refuge. So this is about ignorance. Through the aspiration prayer of me, the primordial Buddha, may the lucid radiance of mindfulness shine in the darkness of enveloping ignorance, so that non-conceptual, pristine awareness may be attained. This is the wisdom of Dharmadhatu, total space. All sentient beings of the three realms are equal to me, the Buddha, who is the ground of everything. They have strayed into unconscious ground of confusion. Now they engage in meaningless pursuits. So this is again repeating this process. The 6 kinds of activity are like a confused dream. I am the original Buddha. In other words, this is the primordial state. My true nature is this primordial state. Because emanations tame beings of the 6 classes, through the aspiration prayer of the all-noble Samantabhadra, may all sentient beings, without exception, awaken to Buddhahood in the basic space of phenomena. That is the Dharmadhatu, or total space. And now it's talking about when this should be recited. Aho, henceforth, powerful practitioners will, due to the inherent lucidity of unconfused intrinsic awareness, formulate this powerful prayer of aspiration. All sentient beings who hear this will awaken to manifest Buddhahood within 3 lifetimes. So if you've recited this now, you will awaken to Buddhahood within 3 lifetimes. If anyone has heard it, they will as well. During solar or lunar eclipses, earthquakes, solstices, or with the passing of the old year, if you visualize yourself as Samantabhadra and recite this so that all can hear it, all sentient beings of the 3 realms will, through the aspiration prayer of this yoga, become gradually free of suffering and eventually attain Buddhahood. Let's sit for a few minutes now, being with this aspirational prayer, with this process of returning to the ground of being, releasing all kinds of grasping and fixation, all kinds of dualistic clinging, being in the state of Samantabhadra, embodying, recognizing our true condition. Let your whole being rest. Now we'll dedicate the merit. That means taking any positive energy we've accumulated together and offering it out to all beings. Gewadi nyoduda kunto sampadruchurne druwa chicham maluba deye salago barsho. And feel the power of our practice, of our recitation, going out to benefit all beings, feeling the fullness of this day in the year, the longest day, the shortest night in our hemisphere, going out to benefit all beings. Thank you, everybody. Lots of love to you, and beautiful to tune in to all over the world. So many places that I saw in the chat that are represented today in this practice. We will be doing this again tonight here in Encinitas, California, 6:30 at the ocean, and stay until the sun sets over the ocean. We transition into the shortest night of the year. If anybody is nearby and wants to come, you're welcome to come. And if you don't know where we'll be, put your name into the chat and we'll help you find us. Thank you to all of you as well. Yeah. Mexico and Germany. Beautiful. Yeah. So important to mark these moments. Like last week, we marked that full moon of Sagadawa, and now this solstice time. These special Buddhist holidays and holy days. So we'll be doing the four main ones of the year. We'll be doing special practices now online for those four main holidays. And I'll see you this Sunday also. If you would like to come, I'll be talking about the roots of Buddhism in America, particularly in New England and particularly in Boston, because I'm tracking my own family who's from there. And I started that last week. You can see that or listen to that one. It's still posted, my Facebook page and on YouTube. And then I'll be continuing that, talking about Thoreau and Emerson and transcendentalists and some of the important women who were there as well. So, oh, sweet. Somebody from Hungary. Yeah. Lots of love to you all. And if you're just beginning your day, as I am here, have a beautiful day. Stretch it out. You can have a long day. And if you're ending your day, feel the fullness of the year. Take in that warm solar energy. Warm you up through the shorter days and darker months. Breathe in, soak in that solar power that we have right now. Yeah. Tucson. Nice. Oh, there's someone from France, Bia. Yes. Love to you all. And we're always connected. There's no barriers in the mind when we pray, when we open to each other. We're together instantly. And until we connect in person, or at least in this virtual kind of person, again, I wish you great joy, many blessings, healing if you need that, and may you benefit beings. May your life be of benefit to beings. Lots of love, everyone. See you soon.
Thank you so much, Lama Tsultrim, for your life of practice and devotion, and for being such an anchor, bridge, and manifester for these teachings in our world. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Drimé.
Thank you all for joining us today. We encourage you to sign up for our mailing list to stay informed about our different upcoming offerings, and there are many. And we hope to see you this Sunday on Lama Live. And reminding you again of the opportunity to offer dana to Lama Tsultrim if you feel inspired to do so. And for those of you who aren't familiar with the term, the word dana is a Pali and Sanskrit word that means generosity. And the practice of offering dana at ceremonies of teachings is fundamental to the Buddhist tradition. Offering dana creates an auspicious connection and is a beautiful expression of the interdependence between teacher and student. Thank you all, and may all beings benefit everywhere.
Om Swasti Machit Laki Drone Yesheku Jesum Kate Choyo Jetsun Lama Tsultrim